The moment I received a call from the hospital asking me to come in for a paternity test, I was stunned, because the couple in question was none other than the heads of the law group. However, just as I was about to receive the results and meet my CEO father, my fiancée Willow actually changed my name on the report to Makoto. What shocked me even more was that her reason for doing so was simply because she feared I would advance too quickly and eventually abandon her. Later, after losing the chance to identify my father, I decisively left her and started my own business, developing the next generation of prosthetics. When I saw her again, I smiled and said, "Miss Liu, does this prosthetic still fit you well?" Chapter 1. Professor. I've agreed to go to Country C as an exchange student. I won't let this opportunity slip away this time. As soon as I said that, the professor on the other end of the line became excited. He said, "Great, George. I've been waiting for this. But didn't you just find your biological parents? Won't you spend more time with your family? And what about your fiancée, Willow, will she agree?" I paused for a moment and replied, with a bitter tone, "They'll all agree." As expected, Willow would be the last person to know about my departure. After hanging up, I stood there in a daze for a long time. It turns out that making a major decision only requires a moment when your heart becomes numb. A day before, I had received a call from the hospital asking me to take a paternity test. A search for parents show claimed to have found people who might be my biological parents. If the DNA matched, I could reunite with my family. I went to the hospital with excitement, took the sample, and nervously waited for the report. But when I went to pick up the report, I was told that Dr. Liu had taken it an hour earlier. I was a bit surprised, then relieved. Willow worked at the second hospital in the obstetrics and gynecology department, and she was also my girlfriend. This behavior seemed out of line, but I figured it was probably her way of giving me a surprise. I still remembered that when I first learned about my biological parents, Willow's eyes reddened as she hugged me and cried for a long time. She was probably waiting for me at home right now. With joy in my heart, I was ready to head home. But as I entered the lobby of the hospital, I saw that the Search for Parents show was playing on the TV. The familiar voice pulled me back to reality. Willow's voice echoed from the screen. "I'm Makoto's friend and a doctor at the second hospital. I personally conducted his paternity test, and the results show that he is the missing child of the Law family." On the screen, Willow held up the paternity test report, with a close-up showing the name of the tested person, Makoto. But I was the one who had done the DNA test, and Willow had altered the name. Makoto, holding a microphone, said emotionally to Willow, "I've been searching for my parents for over 10 years, and today my dream has come true. I'd like to especially thank Dr. Liu, my beloved, for her tireless help and for informing me of this good news so promptly." Amid the cheers of the audience, Willow couldn't hold back her tears and embraced the Law family with Makoto. The host excitedly said, "What a touching moment. Let's congratulate Mr. Makoto for finding his biological parents, and wish the couple a lifetime of happiness." The entire audience clapped, moved by their reunion. Everything seemed so perfect. I stood there in a daze, watching my fiancée embrace her first love and meet my biological parents. I felt like a clown, slapped hard in the face. I drove to the TV station, intending to confront Willow, but was met by the bodyguards she had arranged. Miss Liu said no one is allowed to enter. Get lost. I was desperate and shouted, "Don't stop me. There's been a mistake. I'm the one who belongs to the Law family." But no one listened. People around me whispered, and the bodyguards beat me up. At that moment, the program ended, and Makoto and Willow came out with the Law family. I quickly shouted, and the Law family looked over curiously. But Willow blocked their view. She said, "It's just someone jealous of your family reunion. Mr. and Mrs. Law, don't look. Just take Makoto home." The Law family turned away and happily followed Willow and Makoto. I collapsed on the ground, staring at their retreating figures, my heart aching with every inch. When Willow got home, I confronted her about changing the paternity test to Makoto's name, and why she had kept the fact that she had a lover a secret. Willow shrugged indifferently and said, "I didn't respond to him. Besides, you have me, so you have everything. But Makoto has nothing. Let him have this chance. I'll make it up to you later." I was stunned by her words. I said, "Why? Those are my parents." I turned and stormed out, but Willow's voice rang out, sharp and threatening. "I warn you, if you try to disrupt Makoto's search for his parents, we're breaking up." Chapter 2. At this moment, I was completely disappointed in Willow. This wasn't the first time Willow had emotionally manipulated me. Every argument between us had been because of Makoto, and every time, I was the one to make the first concession. I cherished Willow too much. I didn't want to make her upset, and I didn't want to risk her breaking up with me over an argument. This time, however, I had been forced to compromise, not because of anything else, but because the Liu family was powerful. If I refused, the Liu family had ways of making sure I'd never have a peaceful life again. The scene shifted back to the present. I had just hung up the phone when Willow returned. She said, "Makoto invited us to his place for a family reunion banquet. Get ready, we're going." I looked at her in shock, and my words were tinged with bitterness. I asked, "How dare you ask me to go? I had already compromised this much. Yet Willow was still pushing me. Willow steadied herself and spoke in an unyielding tone. She said, Makoto said that only if you go and publicly acknowledge that you have parents will this matter be completely settled. I warn you not to make a scene. The Law family has already accepted Makoto's identity, and your real father has a serious heart condition. If you cause trouble, the consequences will be unthinkable. Is this really what you want to happen? Her words nailed me to the spot. Clenching my teeth, I said, Willow, those are my parents. Do you know I haven't seen them in over 10 years? I've been called a wild child since I was young. I've dreamed of meeting them. Seeing how upset I was, a flicker of guilt crossed Willow's eyes, and her tone softened. She said, all right, stop being so petty. You have me now. So what do you need a wealthy family for? Once Makoto's identity is confirmed, we'll get married. After that, my parents will be yours, and I'll always treat you well. I stared at her, my heart cold and lifeless. After a long silence, I finally found my voice. I said, I'll go to his family reunion banquet, but this is the only time. There wouldn't be another time. Soon, I would be completely gone from these two people's lives. Willow had expected me to make a scene, but was surprised by my calmness. She seemed a little confused by my composure. We arrived at the Law family's villa. The Law family was powerful, and this villa was worth 30 million. I marveled at the luxury around me, but my heart ached at the cruel twists of fate. Makoto was dressed in a custom-made suit, a $1 million watch adorning his wrist. Mr. and Mrs. Law gazed at Makoto with eyes full of affection, and the sight felt like a sharp blow, making me shiver uncontrollably. Willow pinched me in the back and immediately handed over the prepared gift. She said, Mr. and Mrs. Law, congratulations on finding your biological son. Mr. and Mrs. Law nodded in unison. We should be the ones thanking you for taking care of our Makoto all these years. Mr. Law took out a document. He said, Makoto, from now on, you're the only heir to the Law family. Here are 10% of Law's shares. Take them for now, and I'll teach you how to manage our family's business. Makoto hugged Mr. Law and said, thank you, Dad, for thinking of me. I'm truly happy to be back with you. Mrs. Law looked at me curiously, her gaze scanning me from head to toe. She asked, Willow, who is this young man? I opened my mouth to speak, but Willow quickly pinched me again. I understood and said mechanically, I'm a middle school classmate of Makoto. He's always been very supportive of me in life and academics. My parents are ordinary workers, and they like him a lot. Chapter 3. Every word I spoke felt like an act of resistance deep within me. Makoto, the same person who had bullied me in middle school, the one who copied my homework and ordered me to help him cheat during exams, he was the one I was now pretending to be connected to. Every word I said was a lie. Makoto let out a relieved sigh, his eyes full of challenge and disdain, as if saying, you can't even recognize your real parents. You must be born with a cursed fate. Mrs. Law affectionately patted Makoto's head and said, no wonder he's our son. Even though he wasn't raised by us, he's naturally kind-hearted. Then, they began talking about the orphanage, trying to make up for the lost years of parenting. I couldn't join in, so I stood up and went to the bathroom to wash my face. I never expected that the next moment, Makoto would follow me and grab my arm forcefully. He said, George, why are you leaving so soon? The meal's not finished yet. It felt as though something sharp had pricked my arm. I instinctively shook off Makoto's grip. Makoto fell to the ground, his face contorted in pain, and he groaned. It hurts. Willow rushed over to check on him and looked at me angrily, saying, George, have you lost your mind? I immediately denied it. I had only pulled my hand away. Makoto was setting me up. I said, I didn't touch him. He fell by himself. But Willow didn't believe me at all. She said, you're still lying. I saw you push him. How could you be so malicious? Makoto grabbed Willow's hand, his voice filled with grievance. He said, he didn't mean it. I just lost my balance. Mr. and Mrs. Law hurried over, looking at Makoto's injury. Seeing that the skin was broken, Mrs. Law furiously shoved me. She said, what did you do? My son has been so kind to you, and this is how you repay him. Mr. Law's voice turned cold as he said, kid, if you're causing trouble in the Law family, you're asking for trouble, considering that you were once a friend of my son. Apologize now, or I won't spare you. I was stunned, lying on the ground, my arm and back aching from the fall. I looked deeply at Willow, but she turned her face away, refusing to look at me. Her eyes were only on Makoto. My family was defending this imposter, and the woman I had loved for 10 years was protecting him at every turn. Enough. I didn't want to argue anymore. I turned and left the Law family's house alone. It started raining outside. The villa was located in the suburbs, and it was hard to get a cab, so I ended up walking back home in the rain. My head was spinning. I made myself some ginger tea and picked up my phone, only to find a message from Willow. She said, the rain is too heavy. Makoto asked me to stay at his place tonight while I'm away. You should reflect on your behavior today. Then, Makoto sent a message, an image of him and Willow lying together in bed, both naked. He said, see, George, you can't beat me. At this point, Makoto's provocations were nothing new to me. I was about to leave anyway, so his taunts no longer felt painful. The words barely even mattered. I thought to myself, as I pulled out my textbooks and began reviewing for my exams. I was about to go to country C as an exchange student. I had invented a patent before, and I had been accepted to pursue a graduate degree at S University. The offer had already been made, but I had given up on it impulsively, just because Willow didn't want me to leave. Looking back now, every mistake seemed to have led to another. I scribbled in my notebook, and before I knew it, the night passed. The next morning, when I opened my eyes, I met Willow's gaze, filled with annoyance. She asked, "George, what are you doing?" Chapter 4. I lowered my head in confusion, only to realize that the documents in my hand were the materials for my experimental project. I quickly tried to hide them, but Willow grabbed my hand. She squinted as she read aloud. "Research on new artificial intelligence directions, and it's written in both English and French." "George, what's this about?" I replied indifferently. "Oh, there was a student working on this project, but the paper he translated was inaccurate. He asked me to help him fix it." Willow looked at me with a hint of suspicion. She asked, "Really?" I smiled and said, "If you don't believe me, you can ask Tom." He recommended the student. "He's been busy recently and passed the task to me." Tom was a senior in my field and now a big shot in the industry. He had been living abroad for a few years. Seeing me so open and honest, Willow slightly relaxed. Her tone softened as she said, "All right then. Just don't get involved in anything unnecessary and don't even think about going abroad. You know I hate people who want to leave the country." I nodded, though I didn't really care. If anything, what Willow hated wasn't the idea of people wanting to go abroad, but that she hated the thought of me wanting to leave. At that moment, I noticed the obvious red marks on Willow's neck. Was it disgusting? A little, but more than that, it felt like something I had grown numb to. After Willow took a shower at home, she went to the hospital. Half an hour later, she sent me a message asking me to come to the bridal store and try on wedding dresses with her. I froze and asked, "Wedding dress?" I had almost forgotten that we were still engaged. Another message came through, and Willow sounded impatient. She said, "Hurry up, I just took time off from the hospital, and today's Saturday, so you're not working. Come on." Fine. If I had to go, I would go along with it. If we were playing this game, I'd play my part. When I arrived at the bridal store, however, instead of Willow, I saw Makoto wearing a groom's suit. As soon as he saw me, Makoto took the first shot. "George, I kindly tried this on for you. The quality of this suit is terrible, but I guess it suits you." I just let out a small "oh" and ignored his provocation. I asked, "Where's Willow?" Makoto sneered, pointing to the women's fitting room. "She's in there." As he spoke, he casually started fiddling with the buttons on his suit. The next moment, he actually yanked off the button forcefully. The saleswoman couldn't help but gasp. "Sir, those buttons are very expensive." Makoto laughed loudly and began to pull off every single button, one by one. Then, he took out a wad of cash from his bag and threw it onto the ground. He said, "These ugly things deserve to be destroyed. Is this enough? If not, I can give more. Do you know who I am? I'm the only son of the law family in City A. My pocket money for one day could buy you hundreds of thousands of buttons. Don't you agree, George?" The salespeople were trembling, afraid to speak. This wedding dress was something I had personally chosen, the buttons designed with gemstones, and the patterns inside were drawn by hand, all full of beautiful memories with my future wife. The store staff nervously watched my expression, worried I would lose control and start a fight, or worse, destroy the bridal shop, but I remained calm, my tone flat as I said, "Well then, you can pay for it. That amount of money is definitely not enough." Chapter 5. Makoto froze for a moment, then his face twisted with anger. He tore off a check and threw it at me. He said, "Write any amount on it. Consider it my gift to you. I'm the only son of the law family. This money is nothing." I calmly accepted the check and wrote down the price of the suit. Willow, who had just woken up, was stunned when she saw this. She rushed over and slapped me across the face. The sharp sound of the slap echoed through the hall, immediately silencing everyone. Even the saleswoman was astonished by the slap and spoke up for me. "Ma'am, that gentleman ruined the suit first." Willow waved her hand impatiently, her face cold as she stared at me. She said, "Don't defend him. I heard everything." "George, are you so blinded by money? It's just a few buttons. Is that all that matters to you? What about our relationship?" At that moment, I really wanted to answer her in detail, to tell her that our relationship meant nothing, that it was just a sharp blade she used to humiliate me, just one part of the game she was playing with Makoto. But I said nothing. I just shoved her to the ground and folded the check before putting it in my pocket. I said, "Call it whatever you want." Willow began to cry, and Makoto immediately pulled her into his arms. I numbly covered my face. I needed to turn this check into cash as quickly as possible. I said, "With him by your side, I don't care about you anymore. I'm going home." Without another word, I turned and left. Willow watched my back, feeling a strange mix of emotions, as though something was quietly slipping away. That night, I wasn't sure if Willow came home. She didn't send a single message on WeChat, and we started a Cold War. I thought this was just as well. It made it easier for me to check out of the house. I went to the landlord, settled the rent for the next 15 days, and made sure everything was in order for me to leave and for Willow to leave as well. The landlord was quite surprised. He asked, "You're moving out already? I thought you two had been living here for a long time, and you took such good care of the house. I even thought you were going to buy it." I was at a loss for words. I had, in fact, wanted to buy this house. I worked so hard to provide Willow with a stable future, but Willow's heart had long since left me. The house was full of memories of us, and even if it were given to me for free, I didn't want it. I told the landlord, "Please don't mention my move to Willow. Thank you." Just then, I received a message from Willow. She said, "Can we talk? I'm waiting for you downstairs at home. I was supposed to be on a special call today, but I postponed a surgery just to see you. So if you don't come, I won't be going either." It was another form of emotional manipulation, implying that if anything happened to the patients, it would be my fault. What nonsense. I frowned in disgust. I was about to make an excuse to avoid her, but Willow insisted, saying that if I didn't come, she would just stay there. Fine, fine. Let's just continue playing along with her little act. When I got into the car, Willow was wearing a new, high-end dress, smelling of expensive perfume. It was obvious that Makoto had bought it for her. Makoto, spending my real parents' money on Willow. I sneered inwardly. Willow said, "George, I don't want to argue today. I'm taking you somewhere to relax." I thought she was just going to rant in the car, but to my surprise, she drove straight to the dock and took me aboard a luxurious cruise ship. Makoto, wearing a smug smile, raised his glass and waved it at me. He said, "Surprise." Chapter 6. Before me was the vast expanse of the sea. The luxury yacht was filled with a group of elegantly dressed men and women, each of them looking at me with mocking expressions. I hadn't figured out what was going on when Makoto walked over and put his arm around Willow's shoulder. He said, "The incident at the bridal shop was my fault, so this time, I've specially organized this gathering and invited you here to have fun. This is the Law family's private yacht, and all the food and wine are yours to enjoy." Willow looked at me with a gentle tone and said, "This is Makoto's kind gesture. Don't let it go to waste. Just enjoy yourself." I felt like a fool, and with a cold expression, I was about to leave, but then I realized the yacht had already set sail. If I wanted to go back, I'd have to swim. That was risky, and besides, I couldn't swim. Gritting my teeth, I reluctantly stayed, hoping time would pass quickly. Makoto suggested a game of truth or dare. The bottle spun on the table and stopped at Willow's position. She chose dare. The host grinned and said, "Your dare is to kiss the man next to you for 1 minute." Willow was stunned. Naturally, she looked at me, but then she realized that I was across from her, and the only man next to her was Makoto. Makoto pretended to be uncomfortable and spoke. "Don't do this. Willow is George's girlfriend. This wouldn't be right." The others began to tease. One person said, "It's just a game. You can't be so petty." "Right. Exactly. We're all part of the same circle, nothing too extreme." "Relax, buddy." I met Willow's searching gaze, and it seemed like she was waiting for me to stop her, but all I felt was indifference. Willow was really laughable. Her body had already revealed her desire for Makoto, but her eyes were still asking for my permission, as if I was her real boyfriend. I smiled faintly and said, "It's just a game. I don't care." In the next second, Willow snorted in disdain and kissed Makoto in a sulking manner. They kissed passionately, oblivious to the jeers and cheers around them, while everyone else became their background. I nodded and stood up to leave. I went to the deck, letting the sea breeze hit my face, surprised by how calm I felt. Even the earlier scene didn't stir a single emotion inside me. Just then, I heard an urgent voice calling me from behind. "George, wait." I turned around to see Makoto running after me, his voice tinged with a bit of desperation. He said, "Please don't be angry. Okay, Willow and I are really innocent. If you're still upset about the buttons earlier, just hit me. I won't fight back." With that, he quickly grabbed my hand and tried to slap his own face with it. I stepped back warily, and then Makoto pretended to slip. The momentum caused something to fall off his wrist and fly into the sea. Makoto let out a loud scream. He yelled, "My heirloom jade bracelet." I was speechless. Immediately, Makoto, with red eyes, started accusing me. He said, "George, I already apologized to you. Why did you throw my heirloom jade bracelet into the sea? I know you're angry about Willow and I kissing. You can hit me or scold me, but that bracelet was left to me by my parents. It means so much to me. How could you throw it away?" Makoto cried out, putting on an exaggerated expression of misery, as though he was about to collapse from grief. The crowd that had gathered soon saw this and naturally sided with Makoto. Willow angrily scolded me. "Do you know how much that bracelet means to Makoto? It's the most precious thing his parents gave him." I was speechless. "I didn't even touch you, let alone your bracelet. And besides," I stared at Willow, "are you not clear whose parents those are?" Chapter 7. As soon as I finished speaking, The surrounding crowd fell silent for a moment, then began to whisper among themselves. Willow and Makoto's expressions also changed simultaneously, but soon, Makoto gave a strange smile. He said, "Forget it, Willow. Don't be angry. I'll just jump in and find it myself." With that, he grabbed the railing and pretended to jump overboard. Willow rushed to stop him, her face turning pale with fear. She said, "Makoto, what are you doing? Are you trying to scare me to death?" Then, she turned to look at me, her voice filled with anger as she said, "It's your fault the bracelet's lost, so it's you who should jump in and find it." At this moment, the night was dark, the sea pitch black, with the sound of waves crashing like mournful cries from the abyss. I looked at Willow in disbelief and asked, "What did you just say?" Willow seemed pleased with my reaction, and her tone softened as she said, "Well, you should either kneel and beg Makoto for forgiveness. If you're sincere enough, Makoto might forgive you." The crowd couldn't help but join in, blaming me. They said, "Yeah, you lost Makoto's heirloom. What a scumbag. Kneeling would be too good for you. So, are you going to kneel? Or should we throw you overboard instead? Don't make us do something we'll regret." Kneeling was out of the question for me, so I took off my jacket and shoes. I asked, "All I have to do is jump in and find it, right?" As soon as I finished speaking, I leaped into the sea. In a daze, I thought I heard Willow scream, but before I could swim much, the cold, piercing seawater completely engulfed me, and I quickly lost consciousness. For a moment, I wondered if I was going to die without any explanation. Thankfully, I didn't die. When I regained consciousness, I faintly opened my eyes and saw two white light strips flashing overhead. A female voice said, "The patient shows signs of awakening, but there's water in the abdomen that hasn't been drained. We need to rush him to the operating room." I could hear Willow's anxious calls, and someone was gently patting my face, as if trying to keep me awake. I felt dizzy, my throat blocked, and I had apparently swallowed a lot of water. Even though my mind was hazy, I could hear clearly. The next second, a nurse shouted Willow's name. "Dr. Liu, a Mr. Makoto says his father had an accident and specifically asked to see you. Should we take you to him?" Willow froze for a moment. She hesitated, looking at me and then glancing behind her, before finally abandoning me. A few seconds later, she released the hold on the bed frame and said, "Come with me. Leave one nurse to stay with him." She took several nurses and left. I couldn't help but smile inwardly. I had already expected she would choose this. A few hours later, I groggily woke up to find a nurse replacing my drip. I weakly sat up, my lips pale, looking sickly. Suddenly, I received an audio message from Makoto. When I opened it, I heard Mrs. Law's angry voice. She scolded, "That bastard George is truly evil. He pushed Makoto last time, and now he's lost our heirloom bracelet. How dare he harm my son? I'll make sure he wishes he was never born." Makoto, in his feigned sympathy, said, "Mom, don't be angry. He's just jealous that I have such a good family. Please don't tell Dad. I'm worried about his health." Mrs. Law's voice softened with concern. "Makoto, you're so sensible. Once you recover, your dad and I will take you abroad for a vacation." The audio abruptly cut off, and Makoto left a message saying, "See, George, in the end, you can never win. No one believes you. My parents have already posted everything you've done online, and now you're infamous." I went online to check, and sure enough, I was trending. The headline read, "George, a bloodsucker, has hurt his lifelong friend Makoto and, out of jealousy, threw the family heirloom jade bracelet into the sea." I muttered to myself as I read the media smear of me, but I didn't care at all. I was leaving soon anyway. Why should I care about this? After spending several hours in the hospital, I was ready to leave, but just as I was about to walk out, the door to my room opened, and Willow walked in. When she saw I was fine, she let out a sigh of relief. She said, "You're in the hospital, just in time. Mr. Law had a car accident, and he urgently needs a blood transfusion." I stared at her blankly and asked, "So?" Willow, with an impatient expression, replied, "Of course, you need to donate blood. You and your dad both have Rh-negative blood. Are you just going to stand by and do nothing while someone's life is at stake?" Chapter 8. I let out a cold laugh. "So now she remembers that Mr. Law is my father," I said. "Now you're thinking of me. Isn't Mr. Law Makoto's dad? Since they're father and son, let Makoto donate the blood." As soon as I finished speaking, Willow's face darkened. She said, "George, are you trying to piss me off? At a time like this, you're still worried about small matters. If something happens to Mr. Law, Makoto's true identity will be exposed. I'm ordering you to donate blood." Saying that, she grabbed my hand and dragged me along. I was still recovering, and the tug caused pain to flash across my face, but I had no choice but to follow her. I gritted my teeth and said, "I'm a patient. You can't force me to donate blood, and besides, direct blood transfusion between relatives isn't allowed." Willow impatiently interrupted me. "Don't worry about whether your blood is needed or not. This is the only way the Law family will completely accept Makoto. It's just a little blood, today. Even if I have to drain you dry, You'll come with me. She then called for 2 people who forcibly dragged me to the blood donation room and took 500 milliliters of blood. Afterward, I felt my vision blur, my breathing labored, and I quickly passed out. When I woke up hours later, I was unsteady on my feet and had planned to leave the hospital and go home. Somehow, I found myself standing outside the VIP ward. Through the slightly ajar door, I saw Mr. Law holding Makoto's hand tightly, his face covered in tears. He said, "My good son, thank you for saving your father. I will give you everything good I have." Makoto deliberately kept a bandage on his arm and smiled. "This is what I should do. I'm just glad you're okay, Dad." I quietly watched this heartwarming father-son scene and left the hospital without saying a word. When Willow came home later, she brought kanji and sounded a bit resentful. She said, "I told you not to move around after donating blood, so why didn't you let me know you were leaving?" After setting down the kanji, Willow softened her tone and even took my pulse. She said, "Thanks for today. Makoto has completely earned the trust of the Law family. By the way, I fixed your suit. When we get married, you need to be in the best shape, be the most handsome groom for me." I nodded. The past few days, I had been strangely quiet. I resigned from my job and told Willow I wanted to switch careers. I didn't go anywhere, just stayed home reading books and making 3 meals a day for Willow. She was very satisfied with this arrangement and even transferred me some money, encouraging me to start my own business. To her, I was supposed to stay by her side for life, even if she wasn't marrying her first love. Having a man like me, who loved her and revolved around her, made her life complete. Time passed, and finally, the wedding day arrived. Early in the morning, Willow had already done her makeup, waiting for George. When the door opened, she thought it was George, but when she turned around, she saw Makoto instead. She instantly felt a pang of disappointment and asked, "Why is it you? Where's George?" Makoto, looking at her with a resentful expression, walked up to her and said, "Willow, why is it that you're always thinking about George? Don't you see me? I have everything now. You can totally marry me." Willow, flustered and uneasy, didn't respond to him and immediately went to look for George. She searched everywhere she thought he could be but couldn't find him. Then she thought of the worst possible scenario, that George, jealous of Makoto, had secretly gone to confront Mr. Law. She rushed to Mr. Law's VIP ward and overheard this conversation. Mr. Law was praising Makoto for being so sensible, while a nurse who was changing the 4 drip bluntly said, "Don't speak so casually. I remember that Makoto. I did his blood test before. He's O-type blood, not Rh negative. If Makoto were Rh negative, it would have been a medical accident." Mr. and Mrs. Law both stared in shock. They said, "How is that possible? Our son is Rh negative. Yesterday, he personally donated blood to me. Stop slandering our son." The nurse, quick-tempered, retorted, "I was on duty yesterday and personally saw George draw the blood. The blood donation room has monitoring and records. If you don't believe me, go check it yourself. Besides, who can't tell? George and Mr. Law look identical, but who does Makoto resemble?" Her words were like a wake-up call, and both Mr. and Mrs. Law were left stunned. Makoto, who had followed Willow, rushed into the room, cursing the nurse for slandering him and grabbing Willow's arm. He said, "Willow, say something. She's defaming me. Get her fired. I'm the biological son of my parents. As a doctor, you need to tell them the truth." But Willow, frantic and anxious, couldn't focus on him. She was more concerned about George's whereabouts. She asked everyone she could, and finally, a friend working at the airport messaged her. The friend replied, "George, isn't he headed to Country C? I just saw him go through security at the airport." Chapter 9. When Willow heard this, she instantly felt a chill run down her spine. She quickly dialed the phone to ask more questions. She asked, "You said George is going to Country C. That can't be true. Are you sure you saw him?" Her friend responded with certainty, "It's definitely him. We even chatted a bit while he was going through security. Didn't he tell you?" Willow's lips trembled, unable to speak. How could this be? The George who loved her so deeply, had he just left without a word? I arrived smoothly in Country C, and as soon as the plane landed, I was enveloped by a strange, tense feeling. My professor arrived with Tom to pick me up. When we met, everyone was too emotional to speak. Tom said, "George, we've been waiting for this day." The professor added, "George, you're finally here. You don't know how hard it's been to manage these younger students. I'll feel at ease now that you're here to help." My throat tightened, and I could only nod repeatedly. Once in the lab, it felt like I had opened the door to a whole new world. This was a professional artificial intelligence research institute, filled with classified projects in progress. My previous patent was for a bionic prosthetic arm that could replicate finger joint movements via neural conduction, indistinguishable from a real arm. The professor briefly introduced the project team members, his gaze landing on a young woman engrossed in her research. As soon as I saw her, my eyes immediately focused. I said, "Sushiwejia." The professor was taken aback and asked, "Do you two know each other?" Anna, who had been focused on her research, looked up. When she saw me, her eyes lit up. but her tone remained cold. She said, hello, that was it. Then she turned her attention back to reprimanding a team member for writing incorrect data. Even the professor didn't dare interrupt her. He fondly said, she's always had this work attitude, not one for talking much, but very serious. You'll get used to it. I nodded quickly, following the professor to get my work uniform. Anna was my senior in university, and she was known as the ice queen of our department. Back then, I was just a bookworm trying to earn extra credits, participating in various competitions and research projects. The only time we interacted was because of Willow. It was during our junior year when Willow, upset over something related to Makoto, had an argument with me. In her anger, she dumped a cup of milk tea on my head before storming off. People around me whispered as I stood there with pearls of tea dripping from my hair. At that moment, someone handed me a pack of tissues. That person was Anna. Her gaze was calm as she passed the tissues, and then, after coldly scanning the crowd of gossipers, she left once everyone fell silent. Returning to the present, I focused on the work as per the professor's instructions. The project we were working on was a super intelligent prosthetic hand, which, when worn by patients with hand disabilities, would allow them to easily screw in bolts, type on a keyboard, and lift heavy objects. If this bionic prosthesis passed testing, it would greatly benefit many disabled individuals, allowing them to return to a normal life. This was something I had always hoped to give back to society. Soon, the results exhibition arrived. Artificial intelligence development teams from various research institutes came to participate. Despite the large scale, I confidently presented my work and quickly attracted the attention of many investors. However, just then, an unpleasant voice interrupted the atmosphere. George? I turned around to see David, a rich heir from a previous class of mine. I didn't have much interaction with him before, as he was lazy, relying on his family's money to buy his degree and live a lavish life overseas. He was two-faced and the type of person I hated the most. But now that we were face to face, I didn't want to make things awkward, so I just gave a polite response. Unexpectedly, David walked up to me and began inspecting my prosthetic limb, closely examining it before immediately questioning. This thing, I feel like I've seen it before. Did you steal someone else's technology? I froze and said, I designed this myself. I didn't steal anything. David dragged out his words, deliberately showing off the ID badge around his neck. That's when I noticed the badge. It was from Yaolai Technology Company. David had apparently been sitting on the judging panel earlier. It was clear now he was representing the company at the exhibition. But in such a competitive market, he seemed to be jealous of the attention my project was getting from investors and was resorting to dirty tricks. David continued to bring up examples, trying to prove that my design was plagiarized. I responded calmly. The chip technology you mentioned, I saw it at a tech exhibition before, but my design is completely different. Furthermore, if you're accusing me of plagiarism, you'll have to provide proof. If not, I'll sue you for defamation. I then quickly presented my evidence. A crowd had gathered around us without me realizing, and people started pointing fingers at David. David's face turned bright red, and he started making personal attacks. He said, fine. If you didn't steal it, then whatever. But I still doubt it. You're just an orphan with no background. How could someone like you be here showcasing tech products? Who knows where you got them from? At those words, a silence fell over the crowd. I clenched my fists, thinking about how to respond. But then, Anna's cold voice rang out. She said, our lab carefully selects researchers. George has developed patents on his own and has unique insights and solid academic foundations in this field. If this judge has doubts, perhaps a live evaluation would be appropriate. With that, Anna called over some industry experts to personally showcase my work. David left in disgrace, and I even saw him getting scolded by the organizers. Anna's words not only shattered the prejudice people had against me, but they also validated my abilities. I felt a warmth in my heart and didn't even realize I had lifted the corners of my mouth into a small smile. Chapter 10. Meanwhile, back in the country, at midnight, Willow sat alone in the spacious living room, with 3 phones placed on the table. Her eyes were fixed on them. Fearing she might miss any call or message, one of the phones lit up, and she immediately grabbed it, her lips trembling as she asked, any news? The voice on the other end responded regretfully, sorry, Willow, we still haven't found anything on George. We know he's in Country C, but his identity is under protection, so we don't have permission to investigate further. Willow's eyes flickered with a spark of hope, but it quickly faded. She said, keep searching. Use Liu family's connections overseas. Dig as deep as you can. Find him. After hanging up, she collapsed onto the sofa, as though all her strength had been drained. She had been searching for George obsessively for days. Every time she lay awake at night, she recalled their wedding day when George seemed to disappear from her life as if he had vanished into thin air. People can be so foolish. When someone loves you with all their heart, you don't appreciate them, but when they're gone, you begin to miss their deep affection. George, why did you leave without a word? We were supposed to get married. What happened? Willow muttered in confusion, her headache from the alcohol worse than ever. Just then, her phone buzzed again, and her eyes filled with hope. But as soon as she saw the caller's name, Makoto, her brow furrowed. After hesitating for a moment, she answered, and immediately, Makoto's desperate screams filled the line, accompanied by the sound of sticks striking flesh. He wailed, "Willow, help me, Willow, the Law family is going to kill me." Then came angry curses. Someone yelled, "You bastard, how dare you pretend to be my son, I'll kill you." A bad feeling surged in Willow's heart as she quickly stood and rushed out the door. She arrived at the Law family's villa, where the lights blazed and the screams could be heard clearly from outside the courtyard. As soon as she entered, she saw Makoto, bloodied and beaten. Mr. and Mrs. Law were both wearing grim expressions, and their anger intensified when they saw Willow. They yelled, "Makoto, you bastard, you used us to climb the social ladder and forced our real son away. Willow, you're a doctor, tell me, what's going on with this paternity test report? Makoto has no relation to us whatsoever." Mr. Law took out a new paternity test report and slapped it onto Makoto's bloodied face. Mrs. Law wasn't as harsh, but her gaze toward Willow was filled with scrutiny. She said, "Willow, the second hospital is run by your Liu family, and your father is a well-known authority in the industry. How could there be an error with the paternity test?" Willow wasn't surprised by this outcome, since she had been the one to alter the report. But now, if she let things escalate with the Laws, her relationship with George would only worsen. She glanced at Makoto, giving him a signal. She said, "It must have been a mix-up. Makoto has been searching for his real parents, and his sample got mixed up with George's. George is your biological son." Mrs. Law's eyes welled up with tears. She said, "I should have realized it sooner. George looks so much like his father. How could I have missed it?" Mr. Law sighed deeply. "I was so foolish. I even misunderstood and humiliated my own son." Makoto, receiving Willow's signal, half knelt and crawled to embrace her leg. He said, "Mom and Dad, you've really misunderstood me. It was the hospital's fault. I had no idea. I've been so filial to you. Why are you being so heartless?" Mr. Law spat. "Pa, don't call us Mom and Dad. I don't believe a word you're saying. If it was really a mix-up, why was it George who donated blood that day, not you? And you, Willow, don't think that because you have the Liu family behind you, we won't dare touch you. I care more about my real son than my own life. He's gone missing, and if anything happens to him, I won't let it slide." As Mr. Law spoke, he nearly had a heart attack, clutching his chest and gasping for breath. Seeing this, Willow narrowed her eyes. Clearly, this excuse wouldn't convince Mr. Law. She took a desperate step and kneeled in front of him. She said, "Sir, this is ultimately my mistake, but now is not the time for us to fight amongst ourselves. We need to find George first, and then I will explain everything." Upon hearing this, Makoto's eyes filled with despair, and Mr. Law raised his hand, signaling for the bodyguards to continue beating him. Willow paid no attention to the chaos behind her. Her phone in her pocket vibrated, and a message from the private investigator popped up. It read, "I just found out that George once stayed at an orphanage. The director just received a letter from him. There might be some clues there." George had sent a letter to the director who had treated him well in the past. The envelope contained a postcard and several photos of him in a lab coat, confidently explaining an experiment. The moment she saw the photos, Willow's pupils contracted. She said, "There's a clue about George. Someone said he sent a letter to the director of the orphanage he once stayed at. We need to go ask the director about his whereabouts." Both Mr. and Mrs. Law looked at her with eager anticipation. They said, "That's great. Send us George's location right now. We're going to find him. He's our real son. We will make it up to him." Willow was also filled with excitement. She turned and rushed out the door, calling to cancel her hospital appointments and instructing her assistant to book a flight for her. She had to bring George back. After all, he was the man she was going to marry. The three of them left the Law house, leaving Makoto slumped on the floor, alone. The empty house felt cold and desolate, the feeling of loneliness spreading through him. The Law family had abandoned him, and Willow was indifferent to him. His future seemed even bleaker now. He steeled himself. This couldn't continue. He couldn't let himself be controlled his whole life. He needed a comeback. Taking advantage of the fact that the Laws had left, he grabbed the money they hadn't taken and decided to head to the casino to try his luck. Makoto acted without hesitation. He staggered to his feet and left the Law house, his figure quickly disappearing into the night. Chapter 11. Willow quickly arrived at the orphanage. This was where George had grown up. As soon as she entered the yard, she saw caregivers playing games with the young children. Although they were all orphans, their faces were filled with happy smiles. Looking at this scene, Willow felt a pang in her heart. George, back in the day, should have been living a life of luxury, but instead, he was kidnapped as a child and raised in this poor orphanage. Despite it all, he had turned into such an outstanding person. It was not easy at all. Unconsciously, Willow began to picture George taking care of the younger children at the orphanage. A voice broke her thoughts. "You're here to find me, aren't you?" A calm yet strong voice came from ahead, and a slender, elegant middle-aged woman walked toward them. Willow quickly said, "Hello, Director, I'm George's fiancé. I spoke with you on the phone earlier to arrange a meeting. The director nodded slightly and said, please follow me. Willow brought the law couple with her to the director's office. She didn't bother with pleasantries. Going straight to the point, she wanted George's contact information and his exact location. She even considered that, no matter the cost, if the director was willing to give up any information about George, she would rebuild this rundown orphanage into a palace. The director calmly glanced at Willow, then at the law couple. She said, you must be George's biological parents. He looks like his father, and his eyes and brows are just like his mother's. Upon hearing this, Mr. and Mrs. Law nearly broke into tears. I know why you've come to see me, but I don't think you'll be able to find George. I've watched this child grow up. He appears docile, but his character is very stubborn. Once he makes a decision, no one can change his mind. Willow anxiously swallowed and said, Director, please. His father has heart disease, and I'm his fiancé. Our family is desperately hoping he'll come back. The director lowered her gaze and shook her head, not answering her question. Instead, she changed the topic. She said, I've watched that reunion show. You two recognized Mr. Ito on national television. You were so affectionate on screen, and the media even wrote a 3-day feature about it. Once, when George was little, he served food to the younger children. He placed a hot clay pot on the table, and the skin on his fingers was burned off. I only discovered it later, but he never made a sound the entire time. He was such a strong child, but even he couldn't bear to leave. You can imagine how hurt he must have been when he saw you reunite on TV. There was a heavy silence as the words lingered in the air. Willow's eyes turned red as she said, this is all a misunderstanding. Whether you tell me or not, I will find George. The director sighed and pulled something from her drawer, handing it to Willow. She said, this is a diary that George wrote. It was left behind in the orphanage. When I asked him what to do with it, he said to burn it. But I'll give it to you instead. Willow looked at the yellowed notebook in her hands, her heart trembling. After dropping the law couple off at home, she returned to her rented apartment. She opened the diary, and each word felt like a heavy blow to her heart. It read, Willow took me to see an art film today. She was sleepy and rested her head on my shoulder. From this angle, her chubby cheeks were so cute. Willow got her period and was afraid to eat ginger, so she asked her senior to teach her how to make ginger date tea, hoping she would like it. I saved enough money to buy her a bag, and secretly got it for her as a gift. She's so sweet. When she came back, she brought me crispy fried pig knuckles from that place in South City. These moments came to life in Willow's mind, becoming clearer and clearer. The crispy fried pig knuckles, in fact, were leftovers from her date with Makoto. She didn't want to waste food, so she packed them to give to George. There was also a bottle of soda, a hand-holding moment, a film. George eagerly documented every little kindness she showed him, no matter how trivial it seemed to her, and treated her like a goddess. But what had she done? She had forced his real parents onto someone else, stabbed him in his most vulnerable spots, and stood by Makoto when he bullied George, even slandering him. Willow could no longer hold onto the diary. She finally realized just how much of a monster she had been in this relationship. After a long silence, Willow dialed her assistant's number. She said, book me a flight to Country C, now. Meanwhile, in Country C, my project was progressing smoothly. After finishing the experiment that day, I went to a Chinese supermarket to buy some groceries. Just as I reached for a jar of rice sauce, a slender hand reached out at the same time. Our hands brushed, and I looked up, meeting Anna's surprised eyes. I said, Senior, what a coincidence. Anna pursed her lips and nodded lightly. I glanced down at her shopping basket and saw it was filled with instant noodles and pickled mustard greens. I couldn't help but blurt out, Senior, don't you know how to cook? Anna blushed, as if I'd hit a nerve, and replied, I can cook, but this is just more convenient. Seeing a perfect opportunity to return the favor for Anna's earlier kindness, I smiled and said, well, I haven't eaten either. Why don't you come to my apartment? I'll cook for you. Chapter 12. The sound of steady chopping echoed in the kitchen. I immersed myself in preparing the ingredients, heating up the oil, and soon the kitchen was filled with a delicious aroma. I was a great cook. Back when I lived with Willow, I always did the cooking. Willow was a picky eater, so I even took cooking classes to learn various cuisines from all over. My skills had improved to a level that rivaled a chef's, and I had tailored my cooking to suit Willow's tastes. When the dishes were ready, Anna was initially a little reserved. She ate quickly but still managed to maintain an elegant posture. But soon, one bowl of rice was gone, and Anna's face turned slightly red. She didn't ask for more rice, just ate the vegetables. Her behavior made me laugh. I hadn't expected the usually serious senior in the lab to have such a cute side to her in private. I immediately stood up to serve her another bowl. Anna blushed and thanked me, eating all the food without leaving a single bite. After cleaning up, I said quietly, Senior, since we both live on the 4th floor, feel free to come over for meals whenever you're free. Cooking and eating alone feels too lonely. Based on Anna's behavior during dinner, I guessed that she didn't eat much but probably didn't have many chances to enjoy home-cooked meals, so she ate more than usual. Anna looked a little embarrassed and said, "No need," I interrupted. "Don't be polite, senior. There are still many things I don't understand academically and need to ask you about. So, making you a meal isn't without its purpose." Seeing that I had said this, Anna no longer hesitated. "All right, then, I'll cover the cost of the groceries next time. You've just arrived here, so you should save a bit." I smiled. "Then thank you, senior." We finished cleaning up the kitchen and sat down to work face to face. As time passed, we were both focused on processing the data at hand. Occasionally, we would have a little intellectual exchange, and it felt so natural and harmonious. A week passed quickly. Anna and I ate lunch and dinner together every day, then worked at night while also posting our work progress online. We both had profound academic insights, which attracted a lot of attention from younger students. Many of them wanted to learn from us. I even created a Facebook account specifically for posting photos of our work progress. Sometimes, we would appear in the pictures, and the comments would explode. People were saying, "What a beautiful pair of PhD students. A brilliant power duo, both from our school. They're so well matched. Aren't these Anna and my senior? I ship this couple." I didn't pay much attention to these comments, only responding to those that asked professional questions. I felt that shipping us as a couple might be uncomfortable for Anna, so I personally explained our relationship. What I didn't notice was the brief flash of disappointment in Anna's eyes. The next day, when I walked through the hallway of the research institute, I noticed a group of technicians glancing at me with nervous expressions. Some even seemed to avoid my gaze. Confused, I walked into my lab and saw two foreign colleagues with serious expressions. The professor stood by the experimental table, looking complicated, while Anna had a cold expression on her face. I recognized one of them, Kevin, the investor for this project. He said, "Mr. Wang, we need you to explain what this is." Upon my arrival, Kevin went straight to the point, telling me that they felt the project's investment costs were too high. As a result, the higher-ups had decided to hold a meeting and wanted us to replace the lightweight metal material with a cheaper alternative. I immediately rejected. "That's absolutely not acceptable. Our marketing has been very clear about this. The key feature of this smart bionic prosthesis is its lightness and ease of use. If we switch to a substitute metal, it could weaken the product's performance and even cause a risk of electrical leakage." Kevin continued talking, approaching the issue from a businessman's perspective, completely ignoring the impact on the prosthesis's performance if the material was changed. But I firmly refused. I'm not a businessman. My original intention for making bionic prosthetics is to help people with disabilities return to normal life. If you insist on making changes, I bit my lip, hesitating to say the words that were on the tip of my tongue. "If you insist on changing things, then we'll have to find a new investor." After all, this was the professor's team, and it was everyone's hard work. I didn't feel I had the right to make that decision alone. Kevin seemed to sense my hesitation, and his expression turned dismissive. He said, "So what? Are you trying to threaten me? Let me remind you, our company almost has a monopoly on the entire metal industry in Country C. If you refuse to cooperate with us, no one else will dare to work with you." I broke into a cold sweat, looking toward the professor. As we stood there in a deadlock, Anna, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke up. She said, "It's fine. We haven't signed the contract yet. Let's terminate the cooperation. The full funding for this project will be covered by my family, the Su family." Her words took me completely by surprise, and I stared at her in shock. What kind of background did Anna have to make such an audacious claim? But then, one of my younger lab colleagues, who had overheard the conversation, whispered to me, "Senior Wang, Anna's father is the chairman of the Su Group." My face changed instantly. I hadn't realized Anna's family had such a powerful background. Chapter 13. The Su family was a powerful one, holding influence in both political and business circles. They owned 10 listed companies abroad alone. Anna was the youngest daughter of the Su family, and she had been pampered since childhood. For her 18th birthday, her grandfather gifted her a small island. However, Anna was always low-key and didn't care to flaunt her wealth. When she revealed this, the entire laboratory fell silent, but Anna remained calm, unapologetic about revealing her family background, and it gave the entire team confidence. She said, "You can trust me. I'm willing to support our project without being held back by others." Kevin, furious, turned red in the face and finally stormed out, cursing under his breath. After that day, I almost didn't dare speak to Anna. Though we still ate together as usual, I became more reserved around her. Anna noticed and was upset. She said, "George, the reason I've always kept my family background quiet is because I didn't want others to distance themselves from me. I didn't expect you to act this way." I quickly shook my head. "I just didn't realize how low-key you are. I never meant to distance myself from you." Her words seemed to relax her. She smiled and said, "Good. I really admire you and respect your achievements. I hope we can continue our cooperation for the long term. From now on, please forget I'm the Su family's daughter, and just see me as your senior. Is that all right?" Looking into Anna's sparkling eyes, my heart skipped a beat. I replied, "Of course, you'll always be the most trusted senior to me." After that day, the Su family decisively injected funds, and the project continued without interruption. Having gone through this together, our relationship became even closer. Even the professor began to encourage our partnership. We even had quite a few fans shipping us on social media now. It was after the plane landed that Willow saw a post on her feed. In the video, George and Anna stood side by side, proudly presenting their research results. Both of them looked vibrant and full of energy, appearing perfectly matched. Willow's heart surged with a storm of emotions. She felt a strong sense of crisis, fearing that George might be developing feelings for Anna. No, that couldn't happen. George had to be hers, only hers. With that thought in mind, Willow firmly grabbed her suitcase and moved forward. Meanwhile, back in the country, Makoto was hiding from his creditors. He had gambled multiple times, losing all his money and sinking deeper into debt. Now, the people he owed were threatening to sell him abroad. So he spent his days running from one place to another, eating only sporadically, living like a beggar. He had called Willow countless times, but she never answered. This was so unlike her. Willow had always answered his calls immediately before, even knowing what he wanted to say without him speaking. The stark contrast now left Makoto in a panic. And so, under the cover of night, he blocked Willow's door, determined to find out what was going on. He shouted, "Where's Willow? I need to see her." The servant, looking at him with disdain, said, "Who are you, and what do you want with Miss Lu?" He replied, "I'm her boyfriend. I need to see her." The servant laughed mockingly. "Oh, look at you, dressed like a beggar. The Lu family is a wealthy family, and how could our young miss ever be interested in you? Also, she's already gone abroad. Now, leave. If you don't, I'll call the police." Makoto was stunned. "She went abroad, but I'm her true love. She should be coming to find me." But the servant sneered and slammed the door shut. Makoto stood there, trembling. Could it be that Willow had gone abroad to find George? No, he couldn't lose her. If she went abroad, he would lose all his security. He had to follow her. Willow was his first love. She had humiliated George so much for him before. Surely, she still loved him more. With this belief, Makoto rushed home, grabbed his passport, and headed straight for the airport. However, when he went through security, he was stopped. The staff said, "Sorry, sir, the holder of this passport is restricted from leaving the country. Please return." Makoto couldn't believe it. After some inquiries, he learned that it was the Law family's doing. He was on the verge of a breakdown, and just as he was trying to figure out a way out, a group of people arrived at his door. One of them shouted, "Makoto, get out here." It was the group of rich second-generation heirs that Makoto had once hung out with on the cruise. Another one spoke up. "You damn liar. You led the bullying of George, which caused the Law family and us to cut off business ties. You shameless bastard. We heard you were planning to run. We'll make you pay." Makoto's face turned pale with fear. "What do you want from me? Let me go." But before he could say anything more, they grabbed him and shoved him into a car. He could never have imagined that these crazy rich kids would bring him back to the luxury cruise ship. They all wore arrogant smiles on their faces. "Makoto, don't you like throwing bracelets? It's been so many days. The bracelet must have sunk to the bottom of the sea by now. Why don't you jump in and try to find it?" Makoto screamed in despair, but no one cared. It was night. The sea was freezing and dark, and there was no sign of the bottom. As he fell into the deep water, he felt as though he was close to hell. He could almost hear the mocking voices ringing in his ears. They laughed. "Look at this coward. He was so afraid of death, yet encouraged George to jump. Haha, don't bother fishing him out. This is international waters, and if he dies, no one will know. Let's see if he can even manage to swim back up." Chapter 14. What I didn't know was that, back in the country, Makoto was suffering at the hands of the rich second-generation heirs. That night, I was testing the performance of the equipment in the lab because one of the calculated values was incorrect. I had to keep modifying it, and I worked until midnight. After washing my face, just as I was about to go to sleep, my phone rang. When I looked at the caller ID, it was an unfamiliar overseas number. I instinctively picked up the phone, and the voice that came through immediately made me wide awake. "George, is that you?" Willow's voice was excited but laced with a hint of tears. I was about to hang up, but she stopped me. "Don't hang up, George. I have so much to say. I'm downstairs from your apartment. Please, can we meet?" I walked to the balcony and pulled aside the curtains. Sure enough, there was someone standing downstairs. In the moonlight, I could see Willow's side profile, filled with worry and anticipation. It was winter, and it was unbearably cold outside. Willow's hand holding the phone was trembling. A feeling of irritation rose in my chest, and I replied coldly, "Get lost. Go back where you came from. What a nuisance." I quickly turned off the phone, but even after lying on the bed, I couldn't fall asleep. Willow came looking for me. That was a complete surprise. I had always thought she would marry Makoto once I was gone. After all, Makoto now had the status of a rich young man, and they already had a foundation of feelings. Without me as an obstacle, the two of them should have been destined to end up together. Just thinking about this made my blood boil, and I spent the whole night in restless sleep. The next morning, with heavy bags under my eyes, I went to the research institute. As soon as I arrived at the door, I saw a black Bentley. Then, the people in the car got out, law father and law mother, both with eyes full of excitement, and the last person I wanted to see, Willow. I stopped in my tracks. There was no avoiding this. I was curious to see what they were here for. Willow, her eyes red, said, "George, how could you hide from me all the way here? Do you know how hard I've been searching for you these past few days?" Law father and law mother, also choked with emotion, said, "Son, we found out the truth. You are our biological child. That Makoto is a liar. Come home with us. We can't lose you again." We were abroad, so there weren't many onlookers. Moreover, with the language barrier, most people just gave us a quick glance and moved on. But to me, this was incredibly embarrassing. I gritted my teeth and said, "Please don't make a scene here. I have no relationship with any of you. Please leave right now." My coldness stunned all three of them. No one expected me to be so dismissive. Willow said, "George, I know you're angry with me, but please give me a chance to make things right. Your parents didn't know the truth. You can't deny your real parents, can you?" I sneered and said, "Just leave. I don't understand a word you're saying. Makoto is your son. That's what you admitted on TV. And what's this little performance now? Could it be that something happened to Makoto again, and you want my organs?" With that, I turned and started to walk away. The three of them rushed to follow me, but suddenly Anna's voice rang out. "George, who are they?" I saw Anna walking toward me and a thought suddenly crossed my mind. I stepped forward, took Anna's hand, and said, "Sorry, we still have work to do. If you continue to disturb me, I'll have to call the police." Anna didn't let go of my hand. Instead, she tightened her grip and smiled at me. Our interaction seemed so intimate, like we were a couple. Willow's jealousy flared up, and she stared intensely at our joined hands, as though trying to burn a hole through them with her gaze. She said, "George, what do you mean by this? I'm your wife. How could you hold her hand?" I glanced back at her, my eyes completely void of warmth. I said, "Have we registered for marriage or had a wedding? You keep calling yourself my wife. Do you have any proof? If I had a wife like you, I'd consider myself the unluckiest man alive." Chapter 15. Willow's face turned a deep shade of jealousy as she stared at Anna. The first time she saw this woman, she immediately sensed a crisis, because Anna was several times more beautiful than in the photos and looked so well matched beside me. We went straight into the research institute. Only then did I release Anna's hand and, with an apologetic expression, explained the situation to her. After hearing everything, Anna didn't blame me for the earlier offense. In fact, she seemed deeply sympathetic. She said, "George, you didn't do anything wrong. You deserve to meet someone better." Her words warmed my heart, but I couldn't help but chuckle bitterly. I said, "Senior, you must think I'm ridiculous, right? 10 years of feelings wasted, unable to be recognized by my biological parents, and in the end, I'm left to go far away. Clearly, I did nothing wrong, yet I've become the one who invested the most in this relationship." Anna took the initiative to hug me. Her voice was as gentle as the warmth of the March sun. She said, "George, you're a great person. As someone who believes in science, I've never really believed in fate, but meeting you, I've always felt it was inevitable. You deserve everything good." Her words touched me deeply, and my eyes suddenly welled up. I said, "Thank you, Senior." She smiled and said, "Stop calling me Senior. Just call me by my name." I was stunned for a moment, then replied, "All right, Anna." The Law family owned property in Country C, so they stayed at their house while regularly visiting me. Although I was disappointed in what they had done before, they truly hadn't known the truth at the time, so I couldn't be too harsh on them. When the Law family learned about the project I was working on and decided to invest heavily, I refused. I said, "Thank you for your offer, but I don't want any financial entanglement with you." Upon hearing this, Law father's eyes filled with sorrow. He said, "Son, I know that a lot has happened that has hurt you, but we are still family. Blood ties can't be severed. You should give your parents a chance." Law mother, tears in her eyes, said, "Your father's heart isn't well. His greatest wish in life is to find you. I'm not forcing you to forgive us, but I hope, considering your father's health, you can come together with us more often." I was naturally a soft-hearted person. I fell silent for a long time, before finally relenting and saying, "Let me think about it." With that, I turned to leave, deliberately ignoring Willow, who had accompanied the Law family. Willow's hopes were dashed. The entire time, I didn't spare her a glance. I treated her as if she were invisible. She had never experienced such indifference. In the past, I had always been filled with her, and now, seeing the stark contrast, she was suffocated by it. She said, "George, wait for me." She ran to catch up with me, tightening her coat but still feeling the cold. I didn't stop. In frustration, she quickly rushed in front of me and opened her arms. She said, "I know you're angry with me. I've reflected on the mistakes I made in the past. I was indeed unclear about my feelings for Makoto, but now I realize that wasn't love. I've always loved you, and you're the only one I want to marry." I looked at her with impatience. Miss Liu, if you have a problem, go get treatment. I don't have the time to help you sort out your feelings. And frankly, it has nothing to do with me. Could you please leave me alone? Willow stubbornly refused to leave. She was certain I would soften, but the next moment, I grabbed her and forcefully pushed her away. A few days later, I received a phone call. On the other end, Law Mother was crying almost hysterically. She said, "George, your father's heart disease has flared up. He's afraid he won't make it. He wants to see you one last time. Please, I beg you, come home. I'm depending on you now." A video was sent right after. On the hospital bed, Law Father, with a breathing machine, struggled to extend his hand toward the screen as if wanting to touch something. Seeing this, my heart was overwhelmed with a strange calmness. I took half a day off from the professor and, after some contemplation, decided to go back and see. The project was progressing well, and I had received the professor's permission to bring the project back to the country. Before getting on the plane, I didn't expect Anna to come as well. I stood frozen for a moment as I watched her sit next to me, a deep smile on her face. She said, "If you're going back to the country, we should go together. You still need the Su family, and you need my help too. The Su Group has already set up a subsidiary specifically for our project. Let's wish for a successful collaboration." Chapter 16. After returning to the country, I went straight to the hospital. I heard that the treatment had been timely this time, and Law Father's life had been saved. However, he could never endure strong emotional stress again, and even walking a few steps required taking heart medicine for relief. Law Mother seemed to have aged 10 years. She trembled as she called me aside and handed me a key. She said, "This is the key to the safe at home. Your father and I have made a will, leaving all our assets to you. Son, I know you've always held a grudge against us, but we only have you as our child, so you have to accept this, no matter what." Looking into Law Mother's earnest eyes, I couldn't help but feel my eyes moisten. I said, "All right, Mom." This delayed call of Mom made Law Mother's eyes red as well. I moved into the Law family house while taking time to care for Law Father. I also continued working on the smart prosthetics project. After going through all the procedures, the product was now approved and entered the mass production stage. I was so busy every day that I even missed phone calls. Thankfully, Anna was there to keep me company, always checking in on me. Her care made the long days a little less exhausting. When Willow heard that I had returned to the country, she was ecstatic and began clinging to me like a sticky plaster, following me around. I was getting frustrated, so I ordered the Law family bodyguards to follow me at all times. I didn't even want to engage with Willow anymore, fearing she'd latch onto me, but Willow seemed to be on some kind of stimulant and started aggressively pursuing me. Every day, she'd have takeout delivered to my company building and wait outside the research institute after work. What's more, she secretly added my colleagues on WeChat, probing for information, and even claimed to be my girlfriend, bringing tea and snacks to the company. Before long, the colleagues started teasing me. Every time Willow came to deliver something, they'd flirtatiously say, "Your girlfriend is so thoughtful, bringing us treats again." I couldn't take it anymore, so I flatly declared, "I don't have a girlfriend. That woman has delusions. Don't accept anything from her in my name. Thanks." With that, I severed all ties. Since Willow had no shame, I wasn't going to pretend. The colleagues also stopped accepting the things she brought, showing me respect. Soon, the day of the product launch arrived, and Anna and I represented the company at the event. I confidently took the stage, showcasing our smart prosthetics and announcing our future research plans. My confident demeanor impressed many investors in the audience. Willow had snuck in, and when she saw me, her heart raced. This was her man. She wouldn't let him go. But the next second, she saw Anna join me on stage. We stood together for photos, both dressed in matching couple-style outfits, and the sight stung her eyes. She gritted her teeth in anger. She tried to get closer to me, but the bodyguards stopped her. They asked, "Miss, what are you trying to do?" Willow, desperate but unable to make a scene in front of the business elites, could only watch with intense jealousy as I walked away. After the launch, the evening gala began. Anna took me to discuss the project with several business giants from the capital. Everyone praised my abilities, and amidst the drinking and exchanging of business cards, we reached several verbal agreements. However, while I was exchanging drinks, I unexpectedly spotted Makoto working as a waiter. In just a few months, Makoto had become gaunt, his once handsome face now haggard and worn. He was completely unrecognizable from the glamorous person he had once been. I was shocked by his appearance. Makoto, too, was startled, and his tray wobbled, spilling the wine everywhere. The CEO I had been talking to immediately darkened. He scolded, "What's wrong with you? You can't even carry a tray properly. Do you not want to work?" Makoto, his eyes red with frustration, could only helplessly bend down and apologize with a forced smile. I smirked. Seeing Makoto like this brought me a sense of satisfaction. The banquet soon ended, and I drove Anna home in the new car I had just bought. The car had been bought by the Law family for me, fully paid at over $2 million. It was low-key luxury. After the car drove off, Makoto stood rooted in place, staring at its rear, jealousy radiating from his eyes. That car, that life, should have been his. As he turned around, he saw a woman rush out of the banquet hall, almost tripping in her hurry. She too stared at the departing car, holding a beautifully wrapped bouquet of flowers in her hand. Looking forlorn, it was none other than Willow, clearly waiting for George but being ignored. Makoto sneered. How pathetic. Willow, you're still pretending to be in love. George clearly doesn't love you anymore. His words seemed to hit a sore spot with Willow. Without warning, she slapped him across the face. She scolded. Get lost. It's all because of you. If you hadn't been stirring things up, he would have married me. Makoto held his cheek, a storm of hate brewing inside him. Why? Why was he not as good as George? It was all his fault. His cowardice. If George had married Willow, the DNA test secret would have remained hidden forever, and he would still be the heir of the Law family. Fury surged within him as a dark thought formed. He was going to take back everything that was rightfully his. So, when Willow turned to leave, he called out to her. He said, Willow, I can help you get George back, but the price is $1 million. After I got home, I tried to get some rest because I had an exhibition the next day. I wanted to be in the best shape to attend, to see my product be recognized by more disabled individuals. That night, as I lay down to sleep, I suddenly felt uneasy. My right eyelid kept twitching. A message popped up on my phone. From Anna. She asked if I was free next week and wanted to invite me to dinner. Without thinking, I agreed. But then Anna quickly followed up with, it'll be at my house. When I saw this message, my hand holding the phone froze. It was just a short sentence, but my heart raced. Dinner at her house. Did that mean meeting her parents? I carefully asked, Senior, why at your house? Anna stayed silent for a long time before replying. George, sometimes I really think you're a blockhead. Our conversation abruptly ended, but after I turned off my phone, I couldn't help but smile and went to sleep, feeling peaceful. The next morning, Anna and I brought our team to the exhibition. The venue was bustling with people, but clearly, our booth had the most visitors. At that moment, I was helping a young girl with a hand disability put on the prosthetic limb. Once the sensors activated, the girl watched in amazement as her fingers moved flexibly on her arm. I encouraged her. Try picking something up. She tried, and with ease, she picked up a heavy object. I watched the joy on her face as she played the piano with the prosthetic hand, each finger moving to play the notes. The sound of the keyboard was smooth and beautiful, almost like magic. The crowd erupted into applause, and the atmosphere reached a new high. But at that moment, there was a commotion at the entrance. A group of people with banners stormed in, shouting slogans. Where's George? Come out here. Heartless businessman, you've made toxic prosthetics that killed our children. Hand over George. If we don't get him today, we'll tear this place apart. Chapter 17. The number of people denouncing me grew larger, and the entire audience was intimidated by their force. The crowd unconsciously split into two, allowing them to pass through the middle. I remained calm and composed in my spot, my voice neither humble nor arrogant as I spoke. I am George. What do you want from me? They cursed. Pa, don't you know the evil things you've done? Someone said. Lady, slander and defamation carry legal consequences. Please tell us what George has done. The troublemaker woman threw a set of electronic prosthetics that I had made. She said, it's this thing that ruined my son, leaving him paralyzed. He only lost one arm before, but now look, he's a paraplegic. Look, this is my son. She then turned and pushed a young man in a wheelchair forward, his face twisted in resentment. He immediately cursed me. You bastard. I used your prosthetics, and before, I could walk, but now I can't even stand up anymore. My face is crooked, my eyes are slanted. As she spoke, the woman threw herself on the ground, crying hysterically. He's my only son. What are we supposed to do? People around couldn't help but raise their phones to start live streaming, righteous in their declarations to expose me. There were a few reporters on site, and upon seeing this explosive news, they immediately focused their cameras on my face. I furrowed my brows and asked, are you sure you used my prosthetics? As far as I know, there are now many counterfeit versions on the market that are similar to my patents. However, my products can only be bought through the official channels on our company website. Please provide your purchase record for verification. Before I could finish, the woman slapped me across the face with a loud crack. She cursed. You still want to argue? Can't you all see? He's saying all this to shirk responsibility. Hearing these words, the girl who had just been trying on the prosthetic immediately took it off in fear and hid behind her mother. More and more people started whispering. This thing is so cheap. It must be problematic. Exactly. And this George looks so young. He probably has no experience. At that moment, someone nearby spoke up. My dad was one of the first to try out his prosthetics. Not only are they useless, but they also leak electricity. It's all his fault. I wanted to explain, but then I caught the sinister look of Makoto in the crowd. I locked eyes with Makoto from across the room, and in that instant, I understood everything. Makoto sneered and walked up to stir the crowd's emotions. He said, listen, Everyone. I've known George here since we were kids. I believe I'm the one who understands him the most. Mr. Wang once had a fiancée who loved him dearly, but for his own selfish desires, he left her on the day of their wedding and ran off. A selfish, irresponsible man like him. How could you trust him to take responsibility for you? As soon as he finished, Willow walked out from behind, tears streaming down her face. She held up her phone, showing photos of us together, her voice trembling with grievance. She said, "George, I was your fiancé, yet you abandoned me on our wedding day, leaving me humiliated. I chased you abroad to find you, and you were with Anna, the other woman. You even abandoned your parents. Think about our past. We've been together for 10 years. I hope you can change your ways. If you admit your mistakes, we're willing to stand by you through this." She cried, and the onlookers couldn't help but sigh. People whispered, "Isn't that Liu family's daughter? George is a heartless jerk. She's such a good woman. Even though he's clearly scheming to make money off of others, she's still willing to wait for him. See, this cheap prosthetic is part of George's plot. He's just making harmful products to make money and run away. Stop talking. Let's all go and beat this bastard and his mistress." The scene immediately descended into chaos. Despite the overwhelming support for the troublemakers, I remained calm and stepped forward to reason with the crowd. But the next moment, someone kicked me from behind, sending me sprawling to the ground, followed by countless punches and kicks. The pain was so intense I could hardly get up. People were also wielding sticks, smashing my prosthetic products in a frenzy. The prosthetics, worth millions, were immediately in danger. Anna shouted, "Stop, you're breaking the law by attacking someone." Anna was frantic, rushing to protect me with her arms, but she was small and defenseless, and the next moment, she was slapped across the face. The woman who hit her cursed, "I hate mistresses. Today I'll teach you a lesson for all the other women." Seeing the pain on Anna's face, I lost it. I got up, punching the woman in the nose, then shouted, "You all love spreading rumors, don't you? I've already called the police. Since you're so confident, let's all go to the station together and sort this out." The crowd started to quiet down, likely hesitant after seeing my determined attitude. Just then, the police arrived. One officer flashed his badge and asked, "Did you call the police?" I nodded and replied, "These people are causing trouble and attacking me, maliciously defaming my product." The woman immediately put her hands on her hips and said, "Who's defaming you? It's your faulty product that hurt my son. I'm just here to seek justice." The crowd chimed in to support her. I calmly looked at them and then pointed to the men who had been pretending to be paralyzed. I asked, "You claim to be paralyzed, half paralyzed, is that right?" I then played a video. In the video, the man was energetically chasing a young girl and harassing her. The video was shot just the day before. The people on site were stunned. Then, I laid all the evidence out in front of everyone. I said, "As you can see, this man is not disabled. The woman isn't his mother either. They are just actors hired by malicious people to frame me." The initial testers I hired all signed agreements. The prosthetic limbs they used had unique serial numbers engraved on them. Every buyer had to register with their ID to get a unique prosthetic serial number. You can easily compare them. And those of you who claim to have used my products must provide the serial numbers from your purchase. Otherwise, you are committing slander and intentional harm, which is a criminal offense. Now, it's your turn to prove yourselves. First, show that you bought the product from the official channel. And second, prove you are truly mother and son. I spoke clearly, responding with ease, gradually pushing back the people who had been yelling earlier. The woman, now panicking, immediately knelt in front of me and explained, "It wasn't me. It was Makoto who instructed me. He promised me a large sum of money if I could ruin your reputation." As soon as Makoto heard this, he immediately grabbed the woman by the collar and cursed, "What nonsense are you talking? Don't drag me into your filthy schemes." The woman responded, "It was you. I have the transfer records on my phone. Officer, don't arrest the wrong person." Makoto and the woman started fighting, but the police quickly intervened and separated them. I wasn't surprised. I knew exactly how dirty Makoto's tactics could be. I had been betrayed before, so I had to be cautious and always cover my tracks. That's why, as soon as I returned to the country, I had people keep an eye on Makoto's movements. I knew every shady plan Makoto and Willow had been secretly plotting. As the situation began to turn, the reporters quickly changed their tune and started interviewing me. They asked, "Mr. Wang, that was quite a scare earlier. How do you feel now?" I looked coldly around the room and slowly replied, "My life is always full of twists, so this doesn't feel like much of a scare to me. In fact, I'm about to expose an even bigger secret." Chapter 18. As I spoke, Willow and Makoto sensed that things were going wrong. They exchanged a panicked look, and both of them turned to leave. However, they were immediately blocked by the bodyguards I had already arranged. One of the bodyguards said, "Think you're leaving? Not so fast." In front of everyone's astonished eyes, I opened the laptop on the table and began to present a PowerPoint. I said, "This righteous Mr. Makoto here once impersonated me on a family reunion show and claimed my biological parents. And the one who helped him pull this off was none other than Ms. Willow, who also happens to be a doctor at the Central City Hospital. Everyone gasped in shock, and the murmurs grew louder. Makoto's face turned increasingly pale. He said, "George, stop slandering me. It was you who refused to meet your biological parents, and it was Willow who helped you change your name. What does that have to do with me?" Willow panicked and shouted, "Makoto, are you even a man? Now you're trying to blame me. It was you who asked me to help you fake the paternity test because you heard the Law family had money." As the two started arguing furiously, I immediately pressed play on the recording. The audio of Willow changing names in her office was broadcasted for everyone to hear. Then came the footage of the Law family reunion on TV, confirming everything. Makoto and Willow's faces turned an ashen gray as their secrets were exposed. I sneered. "On top of all this, I'm also going to hold you responsible for inciting the violent incident and injuring Anna. Anna is the most important person in my life now, and if you dare to harm her, I will not tolerate it." The police immediately understood the situation and quickly handcuffed the troublemakers, saying, "Come with us." As Makoto was led away, he screamed, "George, you ruined me. I will make sure you pay for this," I said coldly. "That's all you can do." After the police took them away, the truth quickly surfaced. At first, Willow denied her involvement in the conspiracy, but the police recovered the chat records, which showed that she and Makoto had been discussing how to ruin my exhibition and bring me to ruin. I was at the police station giving a statement when Willow, tear-streaked, tried to explain. "George, I did all this because I loved you, but I've made up my mind. After the exhibition, if we reconcile, I will help expose the truth." I secretly recorded Makoto's calls with the people behind this just to help clear your name. The one who truly wanted to harm you was only Makoto. I sneered. "Spare me the righteous act. Don't forget, you were the ones who stirred up public opinion and destroyed my reputation. I can't even look at your face without feeling disgusted." Willow was still trying to justify herself when Anna stood by my side. She said, "Miss Liu, let me remind you, if you truly love someone, you protect them from harm, not use that love as an excuse to stab them in the back. The person you took for granted will always find someone who cherishes them. Whoever harms George in front of me again, the Su family will step in." Her words felt like a warm breeze through my heart, clearing away all the hurt I had ever felt. At first, I felt inferior around Anna, even fantasizing that if I had met her first, things might have turned out differently. Now, her words gave me the confidence I needed, and I knew for sure that Anna was the one I wanted by my side. I gently took Anna's hand. I said, "I'm sorry you had to go through this, but George takes responsibility for his actions. Since everyone believes I went to Country C to pursue you, then I will make that clear. The past was my mistake, trusting the wrong person. I won't make the same mistake again. Anna, will you be my girlfriend?" Anna's eyes filled with tears as she softly replied, "Of course I will. You know I've been waiting for you to say that." We exchanged a smile, a perfect match, which stung Willow's eyes. She screamed, "George, what do you mean by this? You've known this woman for only a few months, and you're willing to discard 10 years of our relationship just like that. Did you ever think about my feelings?" I scoffed and said, 10 years? You have the nerve to talk about 10 years, when you kept hurting me for Makoto. Did you ever consider those 10 years? Admit it. Willow, you never loved me. You were just used to me working like a dog for you. You never saw me as a person." Willow bit her lips until they turned white. She said, "I didn't. I do love you. I even went to your old orphanage and donated a lot of money. All of this is because I love you. I just realized too late. George, give me one more chance. Let me prove my love to you." When I heard the word orphanage, I paused for a moment. After all, I had no family, and the orphanage was a vulnerable spot for me. But sadly, Willow didn't understand me. Trying to win my favor by exploiting my weaknesses only made me despise her more. At this moment, Anna spoke up first. She said, "How much did you donate?" The Su family can donate 10 times or 100 times more. It's not that I want to compete with you, but I want to show you that if you think money can buy redemption, that only proves you never understood George. Anna's words always made me feel protected. At this moment, I was more certain than ever that Anna was the one I wanted as my partner. Just as I was about to leave with Anna, I suddenly remembered something and turned to look at Willow. I said, "Willow, if you have grudges or resentment, come at me, but if you dare to slander Anna and have her beaten, I will make you pay for it. You'd better watch yourself." Upon hearing this, Willow seemed struck by lightning, and she staggered before collapsing onto the floor. The Su family's legal team moved quickly. The Liu family suffered a blow in business, and soon, they were ostracized in the circle. Many of the nobles who had once supported the Liu family turned their backs after the Su family made their move. Willow's father was furious, scolding her harshly and bringing back the illegitimate son and the mistress she had never known about. It turned out that her father had been cheating for a long time, but kept the son and mistress hidden to avoid Willow's violence against them. Now, Willow was finished. Her father had no choice but to focus on the son, grooming him as the successor. When Willow learned of this, she completely lost it. She screamed at her father, demanding to know how he could do this to her mother. Liu father coldly pushed her away, his face full of anger. and said, "How dare you ask me that? You and Makoto have ruined several big deals for me and destroyed my reputation. You're just like your mother, good for nothing." Willow fell to the ground, staring blankly as her father slammed the door behind him. She sat there in despair, finally realizing that the only person who ever truly cared for her was George. And now George didn't want her anymore, and it was she who had pushed him away. She bitterly smiled, feeling more foolish than ever. Chapter 19. After the slander incident, both Makoto and Willow were to face trial. As long as the evidence was conclusive, they would be sentenced. The people who had beaten Anna and me during the commotion also received their due sentences, and were required to pay high compensation for damaging the items at the exhibition. The public opinion reversed instantly. Those who had been online bullying me were now all my fans. Some even dug up Makoto's dark past. He had a history of bullying classmates, theft, and molesting girls. The people he had hurt came forward to accuse him of his crimes. Willow finally realized how wrong she had been, and how much suffering I had endured in the past. What was even more terrifying was that the surveillance footage of her forcing me to donate blood in the hospital was also exposed. Many netizens were horrified, discussing how dangerous it was for close relatives to donate blood directly. Even doctors know this is dangerous. What Willow did could have killed George's father. Oh my God, Willow is truly evil. If his father had died, Makoto would have benefited from it. Willow is a toxic woman. Both Willow and Makoto's social media accounts were bombarded, with countless netizens cursing them and even editing photos of their death photos. Their vile deeds were completely exposed, and there was no turning back. At the same time, more and more people began shipping Anna and me as a couple. The reputation of the electronic bionic prosthesis was also restored, with many users coming forward to praise it. The first batch of prostheses I produced sold out in just 3 days. Now, Makoto and Willow were both facing prison sentences. The Liu family, powerful and influential, managed to get Willow out of jail. However, due to her unauthorized tampering with the paternity test, her reputation was ruined, and she could no longer work as a doctor. For these past few days, Willow had been in a daze, still clutching her phone and lying in bed. She kept sending me messages, begging for my forgiveness, but I had already blocked all her contacts. The verdict hadn't been handed down yet, but Makoto, claiming illness, had applied for a delay in his execution. The specifics of his illness were unclear, but all that was known was that he had vomited blood and fainted while in the police station. Willow, in a fit of rage, cursed Makoto as a useless fool. But now, she and I were completely finished. Even the Liu family was deeply disappointed in her and ordered her to stay indoors. Thinking back on everything, she regretted her actions and started drinking heavily, making herself delirious. She kept murmuring my name, and in her drunken stupor, she thought she saw a man walking toward her. Instinctively, she reached out her arm, thinking it was me. "George, I regret it. I really regret it," she cried out. "I shouldn't have liked Makoto from the start. I've always liked you. Will you forgive me?" The man's body stiffened, and it was clear he was angry. But Willow didn't feel it. She leaned forward, and in the dimly lit room, the two of them tangled together. Months passed, and my project had fully kicked into gear. Anna and I were happily in a relationship. We shared common interests, mutual respect, and deep affection, enjoying a period of sweet romance. The second-generation bionic prostheses I developed were more lightweight and versatile than the first, successfully benefiting many disabled people. After Law's father had finished recovering in the hospital, Law's mother finally told him about what had happened. Upon hearing about the turmoil I had gone through, he was heartbroken and immediately decided to hand over the family fortune to me for management. I had never been too concerned about money. In the past, I had always spent whatever I earned on Willow, but now, with a large sum of money suddenly in my hands, I was a bit unaccustomed to it. Thankfully, Anna's family financial team helped me manage the funds, allowing me to focus on my research. At the same time, I decided to propose to Anna. One day, I booked the most luxurious hotel in the capital, inviting Anna and her parents, along with relatives from both sides, for the occasion. This was not only a formal recognition ceremony organized by the Law family, but also our engagement party, so it had to be grand. I was deeply moved. The misunderstandings with my parents were also gone. During the engagement banquet, the Su family parents were very pleased with me. Both families enjoyed the meal, and amidst the clinking of glasses, our marriage was almost settled. Just then, a commotion came from the door. Everyone's gaze turned toward the noise, and they saw Willow, dressed in a maternity outfit, holding her stomach, rushing in. "George, you can't marry her. I'm already pregnant with your child," she exclaimed, her voice shrill, like thunder striking the ground, instantly making all the elders in the room frown. Some recognized Willow and began whispering among themselves, "Isn't that the daughter of the Liu family, the one with all the scandals? Did the Liu family and the Law family have an arranged marriage? I didn't hear about this." At that moment, Su family's parents had particularly sour expressions, but their main concern was Anna's face. They hurriedly asked, "What's going on, Anna? Is there some misunderstanding?" I apologized to the Su family parents. "Sorry, sir, madam, for the embarrassment." Then, I calmly patted Anna's hand and said, "Don't worry, I'll take care of this." I stood up, walked over to Willow, and locked eyes with her. "What nonsense are you spouting, Willow? Ever since we broke up, I haven't touched you. How could you be pregnant with my child?" I said coldly. Willow, however, continued confidently, "It's because you froze your sperm at the hospital. I used it, and successfully got pregnant. It's your child. How can you deny it?" I couldn't help but laugh. "Frozen sperm? That's laughable. Willow, do you really think I don't know everything?" I said, pulling out my phone and playing a video. In the video, a man and a woman were tangled together, and the sounds were incredibly lewd. It was clear that the man and woman were Makoto and Willow. Willow's eyes widened in shock, and her voice trembled in fear as she asked, "When did you get this video?" I replied casually, "Yesterday. Makoto sent this to me, hoping to blackmail me for some money. He said if I didn't pay, he would release the video and ruin your reputation. But he overestimated your worth to me. I couldn't care less about what happens to you. So why would I waste money covering it up?" Chapter 20. Willow's legs buckled, and she collapsed onto the ground. She knew very well that the person she had slept with that night was Makoto, as he had threatened her. Yet, she still came here, trying to make me admit the child was mine. The sperm freezing story had been her idea in the first place. At the time, she didn't want a child, so she pretended she was focused on her career and didn't want kids, convincing me to freeze my sperm. But deep down, I knew what she was really up to. I had witnessed Willow and Makoto leaving a hotel together, looking very intimate, and that was when I realized the whole frozen sperm story was just a lie. When the Sue family saw what was happening, they breathed a sigh of relief. Anna seized the moment and spoke up. "Mom, Dad, I'm always cautious with matters of the heart, so you can trust the person I've chosen. George is a responsible man, and he would never do anything to betray me. If he truly got Miss Lou pregnant, he would never come near me again." Seeing her lies exposed, Willow lost all composure and angrily pointed her finger at me. "George, are you still a man? Why couldn't I be pregnant with your child? You have to take responsibility for me." At that moment, Law's father couldn't hold back anymore. He slammed his hand on the table and shouted, "It's you again, lying woman. You drew my son's blood and gave it to me, almost killing me. Now you come to slander him. The Lou family is finished." Law's mother stepped forward and slapped Willow across the face. "You poisonous woman. You've already harmed my son, and now you want to harm my husband. Even if George really got tricked into this, we won't spare you. You'll never step into our Law family door again." Willow, humiliated in front of everyone, turned pale, staring at me with a venomous look. "Fine, George, if you're going to be so heartless, I'll die right here in front of you." With those words, she turned and ran out the door. A sense of dread washed over me. I exchanged a glance with Anna, and we immediately rushed outside. We feared that Willow might try to commit suicide in front of everyone, which would cause a media storm and put pressure on both the Sue and Law families. We searched for her for a while, thinking she had gone home, but just minutes later, someone downstairs shouted, "Come quick, someone's about to jump off the building." On the rooftop, Willow was sitting on the railing, looking tormented, alternately crying and laughing, her expression wild and manic. Anna and I, upon seeing her, felt a heavy knot in our hearts. I stepped forward, trying to reason with her. "Willow, stop messing around. Your life is yours. If you want to die, no one's stopping you. But don't say it's because of me." The cold wind blew through her disheveled hair, making her face even paler. Turning back, she clenched her teeth, as if she wanted to bite me. "George," she said bitterly, "since you came back, everything has fallen apart for me. This child isn't yours, it's Makoto's." That night, he secretly came into my room, drugged me, and I was too unguarded. We ended up together, and I didn't expect to get pregnant. When my parents found out I was carrying Makoto's bastard child, they disowned me. I lost my job at the hospital, and all my friends have turned their backs on me. Now, I don't have anywhere to go. Now I know, you were the best person for me, and if even you don't want me, I might as well die. I hated being threatened. Coldly, I said, "What exactly do you want me to do?" Willow swallowed hard. "I want you to marry me, to completely break up with Anna, and never have anything to do with her again," she demanded. She was clearly gambling, hoping I would soften and save her like I had done in the past. But I just laughed. "Willow, you've chosen the wrong place to jump from. You should have jumped into the sea," I said. Willow froze, her mouth opening in disbelief, but she couldn't find words. I continued, "Do you remember that time on the cruise ship when you forced me to jump into the sea to find a bracelet for Makoto? You probably forgot, but I can't swim. When you asked me to jump, you were literally pushing me to my death. I've already died once, and now you think you can use your death to threaten me? No way. I don't fall for that anymore." With that, I grabbed Anna's hand and turned to leave. Behind us, suddenly, a loud scream pierced the air, followed by the shocked cries of the crowd downstairs. Willow had fallen, but I didn't turn around. I just held Anna's hand tightly as we walked away. Chapter 21. The ambulance took Willow away. She didn't die. She was fortunate enough to land on a mattress the hotel staff had prepared, but the impact was too severe, and she ended up with a broken leg. The child in her womb was lost. I heard that she cried herself into a faint at the hospital and, when she regained consciousness, cried again, creating a scene that disturbed the entire hospital. Her suicide attempt quickly made its way to trending news, and the Liu family, unable to bear the shame, took her back home. Meanwhile, my wedding went ahead as planned. The Law and Su families rented out the most luxurious hotel in Beijing for the event. High society elites from across the city attended to witness the union of the two families. After the wedding, Anna and I went abroad for our honeymoon. We occasionally posted updates from our trip online, and every time, the comments were filled with blessings. As for Willow, things weren't going as well for her. She had been in the hospital for a long time, and when she learned of my marriage, she completely broke down. "Get out, all of you. Just get out," she yelled angrily, throwing the medicinal soup in front of her. The nurse slapped her across the face in response. "You little bitch, after all the trouble I went through to prepare your medicine, and you go and ruin it like this," the nurse scolded. Willow held her face in pain and shouted, "How dare you hit me?" She tried to retaliate against the nurse but then realized she had lost a leg and could no longer walk normally. A nearby patient mocked her. "You lost a leg. You better get a prosthesis. There's this new bionic one that's really popular now. I recommend it to you." Willow looked up at the screen where an ad for prosthetics was displayed. To her surprise, it was one that I had designed. She immediately exploded, crying hysterically, only to be scolded again by the nurse. Meanwhile, Makoto was becoming more and more anxious. He couldn't believe Willow had abandoned him, and now she had lost the child. He had even taken some compromising photos of Willow to blackmail the Liu family, but the family had sent people to beat him up. Makoto, seeing how desperate and humiliated he had become, couldn't swallow his anger. He couldn't let Willow be at peace, and he couldn't let George off the hook either. All of them had to die. Consumed by hatred, Makoto wandered into a bustling market, took advantage of the chaos, and stole a cleaver from a vegetable stall. He vanished into the crowd. I had just finished work abroad and was preparing dinner with Anna when a news headline appeared on my phone, taking over the screen for several seconds. I looked down and froze. Willow and Makoto's names were once again in the news. The headline was explosive: Liu family's daughter kills intruder Makoto in the middle of the night. I stopped cooking the noodles and opened the trending news to read more carefully. Apparently, Makoto couldn't accept Willow abandoning him and had broken into the Liu family home in the middle of the night. He threatened her, demanding money, and told her that if she didn't comply, they would both die together. But what he didn't know was that Willow had long since hated him. After exchanging insults for a while, the two of them began to fight. Due to her injury, Willow was easily overpowered by Makoto. He laughed maniacally, thinking he would continue tormenting her, but in the next second, Willow, in a desperate move, stabbed him in the heart with a knife. After accidentally killing Makoto, she tried to flee but was immediately caught after the neighbors reported her to the police. The Liu family had completely given up on Willow and shifted their focus to supporting her younger brother. Willow was sentenced to life imprisonment, but because of the mental health evaluation from the Liu family that showed she had serious psychological issues, and because Makoto had attacked her first, she was eventually sent to a psychiatric facility. I hovered my finger over the screen for a few seconds, then withdrew my thoughts. I sighed deeply, reflecting on the cruel twists of fate. Anna had just finished washing her hair and, noticing a burnt smell, asked what I was lost in thought about. I smiled apologetically. "Sorry, I zoned out for a moment. Let me cook you a new bowl of noodles." Time passed, and 6 months later, Willow called, asking to meet me. I received the message while I was discussing a new project with Anna. I'd heard that Willow had tried to commit suicide several times but failed. Her only wish now was to see me once more. We both knew this would likely be the last time we ever met. I agreed to meet. There were some things I wanted to say to her too. When I arrived at the psychiatric facility, I found Willow sitting in a wheelchair, dressed in a patient's uniform. She looked like she had aged more than a decade since I last saw her. The once proud and alluring Willow was now the very image of everything she despised. When she saw me, she gave a weak smile. "I thought you'd never want to see me again." I lowered my gaze, but the table blocked my view. "How's your leg?" I asked. "I'm using the prosthetic you made. It's really good." "For the first time, I realized just how amazing you are," she replied. We both fell into silence. Willow gazed at me deeply. I was now wearing a high-end custom suit, which made me look more intellectual and made it hard for anyone to take their eyes off me. I was now the head of the law group, the son-in-law of the Su family with a fortune in the billions, and a rising star in the tech industry. No one could see the timid orphan I once was. My life was going better than I could have ever imagined. My face, now matured, no longer carried the innocence of the past. It was calm, composed, and exuded confidence. Willow couldn't help but ask the question that had been haunting her. "George, if we could go back, if I had never been involved with Makoto, would we be happy now?" I didn't answer her. Instead, I responded, "Willow, choices are made by people. It's not about the choice itself, but about who you are. Who you are will determine the choices you make. Whether or not there's a Makoto doesn't change the fact that you are who you are, and you would have made similar choices in the end. So, that question is meaningless." I showed her the wedding ring on my finger and smiled. "My wife is pregnant. and we're planning to move abroad. I wish you peace for the rest of your life." With that, I stood up to leave. Just then, my phone rang. I answered with a gentle voice, and the warmth and sweetness in my eyes were impossible to hide. The happy George she saw now was someone Willow had never seen before. In the end, it was Willow who had let George down. It was her fault. Willow sighed silently in her heart. She watched his retreating figure and cried. Such a good George, and she had missed him.